All right. So now keep moving along. We're on to team number 7. Yeah, team number 7. So this is a bit of an upset. I think Justin at 5 is probably an upset. I think Andre at 6 makes sense though. This will come as a surprise to quite a few people because I have them ranked higher than other teams. It's a surprise to me too. So I have Ryan ranked as my number 7 team. So that is despite using $56 on Saquon Barkley that he may or may not have been aware of because it was auto drafting for him originally. Everyone in our league knows how I feel about Saquon Barkley. Everyone in our league knows how I feel about the Giants' general manager, David Gettleman. Everyone in our league knows why I am so down on Saquon Barkley. So we will try and not get too much into the negative and focus on the positive. So I think what Sarah feels for Saquon Barkley is what I feel for Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon let me down with the Chargers, and I refuse to have him on my team since. I think Sarah feels the same way about Saquon after last year. The Giants will try and stick with the good. While Barkley did not play much last year, when he did play in week 1 with his 15 carries and 9 targets, playing 88% of the snaps, I mean, he's still probably the most physically gifted running back in the NFL. I got to see what he looks like fully healthy coming off the ACL. He's still recovering. I say tongue-in-cheek he'll be ready by week 3, but chances are they will take it slow and he will not get a full workload till at least week 3. People are saying there's a lot of mouths to feed in New York, I guess because they have Kenny Golladay now and Sterling Shepard, and they used a first-round pick on Kadarius Toney. But I'm not a believer in Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is the fumbling version of Jameis Winston with not as good a coach in Sean Payton. And Jameis Winston couldn't make it work with Bruce Arians, who won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. Sean Payton won a Super Bowl with Drew Brees. I don't think Joe Judge or Jason Garrett are going to come anywhere near a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones. He's just not very good. If he cut down the turnovers, he could be average, but as long as they're there, he's not very good. That being said, drafting Saquon number 2 was bad. The offensive line is the worst in the NFL. I guess we're going into the negative. But strictly on talent and workload, Saquon is a number 1 running back. Do I think he will get the workload? I don't know. Do I think he'll stay healthy? I hope so. But purely from a talent standpoint, Saquon is the most talented running back in the NFL. I would say before Saquon, it was Elliott, but obviously, as you have seen, Elliott's gotten beat up over the years, and frankly, he's gotten fat. He was fat last year. Saquon is a superstar athlete. Sometimes he doesn't have the best vision, but he has so much speed, acceleration, size. He can do it all. I just hope coming off the ACL, he can be healthy again and we can see that again. You know, I want to say 4 out of 5 times ACL surgery, they come back to what they were. Sometimes, though, like Jamal Charles or Jerick McKinnon, they tear their ACL and the ability's gone. I hope that's not the case with Saquon. I hope it's more Adrian Peterson and less Jerick McKinnon. But he's not in a great situation. I personally did not want to spend any money on Saquon. I think because everyone knows how I feel about Saquon, a lot of teams did not want to spend any money on Saquon. So I'm glad he ended up on Ryan's team, even if Ryan isn't happy he ended up on Ryan's team. But if he stays healthy, I could see 1,200 yards, 55 receptions, maybe like another 400 yards receiving, so like a 1,600-yard season, and then a good 10 touchdowns. He's an elite player if he's healthy the entire year. And it's just a matter of, can he stay healthy the entire year? Do the Giants know how to use him properly? I think the answer to both those questions is no. But, on the hope that I am wrong, you can build a team around him. That's what I'll say about Saquon. I don't think I am, but, maybe. We spent $9 on Lamar Jackson. I can't really talk because I spent 11 on Josh Allen. I personally love Lamar. You'll notice on my team I own 4 Ravens players. I think Lamar Jackson is the closest thing to Michael Vick since Michael Vick. He's the premier rushing quarterback. He leads the league in carries. Last year he had 159 carries at the quarterback position for 1,000 yards rushing, the first quarterback ever to do that. He was an MVP the year before. He's got to develop his passing game. That's obviously true, especially when in his draft class you've got Josh Allen. But I still think he's an elite quarterback, especially in fantasy because of rushing. The Ravens have really spent a lot of capital on trying to fix the wide receiving core. So obviously they already had Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. They spent some money on Sammy Watkins, who I don't think will stay healthy the whole time, but that's okay, because we also spent a first-round pick on Rashad Bateman and Tylan Wallace. I'm a Steelers fan, and I'm jealous of the fact that how the Ravens scheme their offense, because they are so efficient. I think Lamar Jackson, obviously, he's been the number 1 fantasy player in fantasy before. Obviously, he has the upside of doing that again. Do I think he does that again? No, because I think they're going to rush less and pass more. I think he's got to develop his accuracy more. I think that's really important for him to take the next level, especially if he wants to compete with Patrick Mahomes. I just don't think his rushing ability is sustainable to what it was his MVP season or even last season. But that's okay because he's still a solidly top 10 quarterback because of his rushing ability. He's a sensational player to watch. Again, he reminds me so much of Michael Vick. And if he can just get the deep ball down with Marquise Brown, because he's got the mid-tier with Andrews, underneath, you can work on. But if he can get the deep ball down with Marquise Brown, they'll be in a good place. I don't love the price at 9. Again, I can't really speak because I got Josh Allen for 11. But he's an elite player, and I think he's solidly a top 10 quarterback. And I think there were, I'd much rather have a quarterback that I really, really like than be stuck with a quarterback that I don't. There are plenty of quarterbacks, though. So, we could have gone the Justin Herbert route with Sarah, or Ryan Fitzpatrick route, or Matthew Stafford, or Russell Wilson, or Kyler Murray. So, I prefer Kyler Murray at 5 to Lamar Jackson at 9, but I don't hate the pick, mostly because I like the player. Classic Ryan pick, Myles Gaskin. So, 7th round pick the year before. We're taking him. We believe he's the starter in Miami. Take him for 27. He was a big surprise. I think, what is it? He played 10 games last year. He was roughly the 25th best running back in fantasy. I think the only thing would be he's a borderline number 2, top 25 running back. So he's about where he was. I just think Miami's going to try and pass the ball more because they have so many mouths to feed now. Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, Mike Gesicki, Jalen Waddle, Will Fuller, just so many people. And they brought in Malcolm Brown to back him up, I guess, in the Jordan Howard role. This is obviously Gaskin's role as a running back. I just don't think Gaskin is really all that talented, per se. He's not that big. He's not that fast. He's got decent vision. For me, he's a very replaceable player. So that's the one rub. I like talent a lot at running back, and I don't think Gaskin has a lot of that. But the situation is relatively good, because unless Malcolm Brown beats him out somehow, it's his team. So, I know you picked him up and you liked him last year. I could see 700 yards, and then he probably breaks 1,000 with his receiving, because Tua will look for him on screens and outlets a lot. And he's definitely their best receiving back. But yeah, I don't love him, but it's a classic Ryan pick. Getting him for $27 to be my number 2 running back, that's a good deal. That's a good price. So I don't mind it. Considering we are stuck with Barkley, that's a soft landing. So I like that. Wasted $9 on Darius Leonard, which really doesn't make sense because we later took DeForest Buckner. But sure, okay, linebackers, fine. We took Mike Evans, $31. So Brady's, I'm going to go with number 2 target. I still say Antonio Brown and Brady are besties, and that's going to be the guy. It wasn't all that long ago Antonio Brown was the best receiver in football. But Evans is, to your credit, the red zone threat. And Evans eats red zone touchdowns. That's all he does. So, yeah, sometimes he's been getting nicked up a lot more recently. He just redid his deal. But he averages basically, I want to say, like what? With half PPR, like he's a borderline top 10 receiver. He's a really good player. I think he'll be a little worse than last year because he won't score as many touchdowns, but we're still talking like a 1,000-yard receiver with like 10 touchdowns, so he's rock solid. I think he's a top-end wide receiver too, so maybe like 13th best fantasy receiver, which is really good. $31 is a little high for that, but overall, it's relatively good value. I like him quite a bit. He just scores touchdowns. I can't really argue with that. Then next, you took Josh Jacobs. You spent $30 on Jacobs, which I suspect is a little low, but I also suspect that's because Kenyon Drake is now in town. If I'm being completely honest, I don't know what the Raiders are doing with John Gruden. As much as I know Hannah does not like Josh Jacobs, he was the 8th best running back in fantasy last year. But that's because he had a ton of volume. He had 273 carries, something wild. And then he had like quite a bit of catches, and he had like 18 rushes inside the 5-yard line, which I think led the league. But his efficiency was not very good. And I don't think he'll get the kind of volume that he did last year. Because that's why. Why would you bring in Kenyon Drake if you trust Josh Jacobs to be your guy? I think $30 on Josh Jacobs is a little rich for my blood just because Kenyon Drake is there, especially when I consider that I know you did not get Kenyon Drake. So you did not get the handcuff, just like you didn't get Barkley's handcuff for whatever reason. I'm not sure how much I trust that. But, again, he's probably like a solidly back-end number 2 running back flex. And for where you have him, kind of like Gaskin, he's got like a pretty good ceiling or pretty good floor because he's a starter on a modestly good team. I think the Raiders are average, if I'm being generous. But Jacobs has a lot of talent. If they really... I don't know what the Raiders are doing. I don't trust the O-line, which they've completely turned over. I think Derek Carr's good, but he's in the wrong offense. I don't know if they really know how to use Jacobs. Jacobs was more of a pass-catching back at Alabama, and now all they do with him is kind of like run him up the gut, and that's not, despite how he looks, that's not really his game, per se. That's more of Kenyon Drake's game. So... this has gone from a super-duper low-efficiency but high-volume player to, like, he's going to be with a backup who's going to be pushing him every single week for touches, and that's not great. But in the meantime, I suppose he's good for what he is. It's rich for my blood. I think you overpaid by, like, I think you bought the name and less of the actual, like, player that what he is. I don't think he's a $30 player. I see him as being like maybe $20 player, maybe even $15 considering the circumstances. Kenyon Drake is a good player. Josh Jacobs, I think, is a good player too, but it's kind of like Fournette and Ronald Jones. Like if one of them was hurt and the other one was the player starting the whole time, yeah, no, they'd be nice, but that's not what's going to happen. They're going to be in a timeshare, and that's exactly what's going to happen between Drake and Jacobs, and that's not great. We got Robert Woods at 60 for 24. I like this a lot. I am quietly a fan of Robert Woods. I know Brian really has liked him. I know Justin has liked him as well. I think he's underappreciated because he's been like so consistently above average, but he's never been excellent. I think Cooper Kupp will get more touches than him this year because that's what Cooper Kupp does. But he gets a lot of yards. He gets a lot of play, and this might be the first time he becomes a deep threat again like he was in Buffalo a long time ago with Matthew Stafford. He's finished the past 3 seasons as like a top 14 fantasy receiver. So, yeah, no, I mean, he's kind of like Mike Evans. He's like I see him more as a very, very solid but low ceiling, high floor receiver, which is interesting for you, Ryan. You didn't take any high upside receivers, but he's a good player. He's a quality player. He will come in, do his thing, and get you 13, 14 points a week, and you won't complain about it, especially in that offense. So I like him quite a bit. I actually quietly hope he gets more carries. He actually is a pretty efficient rusher. I think he has 20 carries a season the last 3 years. So, 2 or 3 carries a game would be nice, using him a little bit more. But he's solidly going to get his 90 receptions, his 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's just what he does in and out every year. And I like him. He's a very, very solid player. So, yeah, that's the thing with you, I guess, in this draft. Lots and lots of doubles. If Barkley is like a walk, because I don't really know, Lamar Jackson's probably a single. Gaskin's a double. Evans is a double. Jacobs is a double. Woods is a double. So you consistently got good players. Players I may not like or be down on, but they're good players. I don't really know why we took Noah Fant, especially because he's hurt, and there's no reason to start a tight end. You got Marvin Jones Jr., who's now the new number 1 in Jacksonville, especially because he's back with his old coordinator, Darren Bevel, which is weird in a sense. But he's like a borderline flex option just because he gets so much play in the red zone. He had 9 receptions last year with Matthew Stafford in Detroit, and so yeah, no, he's a red zone threat. He's kind of like a low end Mike Evans in a sense. I remember when he was at Cincinnati, he was still a red zone threat. So I think he's a decent flex for you. I'm not really sure why you're starting Noah Fant over him. I think he's a better player by a lot, especially when Fant's injured. But yeah, hey, your team, you do you, bro. So 70 receptions, 900 yards, maybe a little touchdown regression, like 7. He won't have as excellent a year as he had last year, but he's still solidly a top 40 receiver-ish player. So he's a flex, solidly a flex though. But I do like him. He's quietly a good player. And then we did like a bunch of weird stuff. Like we took T.Y. Hilton, who's on IR. Oh, here's the Elijah Moore. Okay. Get into Elijah Moore. I've been waiting for this. So I've talked about like Corey Davis, and then we went over with and Michael Carter, and we went over with Andre and the Jets. He took Jamison Crowder. Corey Davis is safe. Crowder gets receptions, but this is the cat that I like a lot. Elijah Moore was the 34th overall selection, but what's important is he's only 5'9", he's 185, but he comes out of Ole Miss. Why is that important? Because the last 2 receivers that he trained with in the offseason to come out of Ole Miss are DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown. He trains with them. You know what they did in the offseason? They trained with Calvin Johnson at Ole Miss. I really, really like Elijah Moore. I have no idea why he fell to the second round. I think the Giants, Hannah's guy from UF, Kadarius Toney, who was taken by the Giants in the first round, Elijah Moore's better than Kadarius Toney. Pound for pound, player for player, he's better. He's simply better. So, yeah, no, he catches everything. And while he may be a slot receiver because he's small, he is so crafty. If Cooper Kupp reminds me of Julian Edelman, Elijah Moore would probably remind me a lot of Keenan Mcardle, if you know who that is. We're going way back, like late 90s Jaguars. He is crafty. He is smart. Very, very physical. I like him a lot. Like a lot. He was a late round target for me. I think he will be better than what he is. The only issue is he's stuck on the Jets. The Jets are bad. I don't know how much playtime he's going to get because of Crowder and Corey Davis. They spent a first-round pick on Denzel Mims last year, which was a waste, and then they brought in Keelan Cole. But if we're going by talent, he's the most talented. He might be the most talented player on the Jets offense if I really think about it. I really like Elijah Moore a lot. I got him as a very, very late sleeper. I really, really wish he could have ended up on a better offense. It's kind of like, again, talent matters at running back, situation matters at receiver. His situation isn't great because it's the Jets. The O-line might be better, but still rookie quarterback. But I really, really like Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore is someone I had my eye on. I'm very, very high on him. I'm surprised he went so late, but I think that has more to do with him being on the Jets. You took A.J. Green late, too, and I don't really know what's going on in Arizona. Honestly, I think A.J.'s cooked. He was not very good last year. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Overall, again, I got you at, this is 7? I got you at 7. So you're about right in the middle. I haven't given Pat draft grades on any of these. So I would say probably if Justin's a B- and Andre's a B-, you're probably like a C. I don't really know what you're doing with your bench. You have Jalen Ramsey is a backup cornerback on your bench, and you're starting Marlon Humphrey, another cornerback, and then you're starting a safety in Jabril Peppers. I don't know what you're doing at defense. I have no idea. You have an extra cornerback and an extra defensive lineman. You have T.Y. Hilton, who is injured and out on IR. A cooked A.J. Brown, and then you're starting Noah Fant, who's a tight end who's injured too on Denver, and is maybe the number 3 or 4 option. I have no idea what is going on with your bench. So, yeah, if your depth was decent, I maybe could move you up, but really this is probably where I'd put you just because I don't love the upside of your team at all. I think your team is possibly a playoff team, but you really got to protect Barkley. I have no idea why you drafted some of these players on the back end, but didn't pick up Devontae Booker to be the handcuff to Barkley, or I don't know, Malcolm Brown to be the handcuff to Gaskin, or Kenyon Drake to tag team with Josh Jacobs. You're super, you have 3 good, solid running backs, but those are the only running backs on your roster. And you're wasting your bench on stuff that doesn't matter. So, yeah, I don't really understand what you're doing with your bench. I know sometimes you struggle with defense, but 2 cornerbacks, really? You couldn't just get a second linebacker and start him with Jabril Peppers? Wouldn't that make your life easier? Even if you want to keep the extra defensive lineman? I don't know. Having Saquon sucks to begin with, so the team's about average. We're giving you, I guess we'll give you a C+, a little above average, just because you've managed to get 3 good running backs who are technically somewhat healthy right now. So you're in a good place to begin the season, but you got a lot of work to do. Yeah. I do have you ranked in a lot of teams, though, so there's that. But, yeah, C+. I guess Justin was a B- and Andre was a B-, but yeah, you're getting a C+. So, yeah, you're my number 17, Ryan. I hope you figure out your bench. Or not. You don't have to do that. You do whatever. I'll just take up all the players. It doesn't bother me.